presidency, the Senate, and retain control of the House. And that is a really important additional reason why we should all be working really, really hard on the senatorial races to ensure that there are a majority of Democrats come 2020.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, so before we get to the banner signing, we have one last speaker. Allie King is the field representative for our Oregon OR3, Congressman Earl Blumenauer, whom we all love.
All right, Allie. Thank you. The Congressman is in D.C. this week, but he asked me to read this statement for you. He says, like you, I have been deeply troubled by the anti-immigrant policies and hateful rhetoric coming out of the Trump administration. Our, and he puts this in quotes, Commander-in-Chief has clearly lost respect for humanity. In July, I visited our southern border to inspect the conditions and to speak with people in the United States and Mexico who are directly impacted by this administration's policies. I visited a section of the border in El Paso, Texas that has seen a 619% annual increase in apprehensions of unaccompanied children, families, and individuals. There were El Paso migrant processing centers where some of the detainees were held in standing room only conditions for days or weeks. Despite recommendations to immediately alleviate the overcrowding, I witnessed many people in conditions that can only be described as inhumane. When you look at the haunted faces of the refugees in these detention centers, it's clear that this administration's border policies are intentional, deliberate, and shameful. This is not our America. We must find ways to streamline asylum cases, improve conditions, and end the heartless, extended detainment of fleeing refugees.
That's right.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I am fighting for a more just and humane immigration system, but it is clear that ICE and the entire Department of Homeland Security are unable to administer such a system. That is why I believe that the DHS should be abolished.
All right.
In 2002, I voted against the formation of ICE and DHS, and I was one of the first members of Congress to call for ICE to be abolished. We need to start over to restore dignity and accountability to our immigration system, focusing on our priorities to protect our families and our borders in a humane and thoughtful way. I also believe that the United States should not criminalize migration, which is why I am working to introduce legislation that decriminalizes unauthorized entry into the United States. Now is the time for immigration reform that ensures people are treated with compassion and respect. This year, I helped pass the Dream and Promise Act to provide a pathway to citizenship for millions of dreamers and temporary protected status holders who are caught in limbo at the hands of this administration. I also helped pass legislation to require humanitarian standards along the border. But my work won't stop there. I am working to protect asylum seekers by ending the Remain in Mexico and metering policies that create unsafe conditions and limits on asylum claims. And I am fighting to end the needless and sometimes permanent separation of children from their families. I will continue the fight to move past this dark period in American history. I appreciate the impactful work you are doing, and I commend you for showing up and speaking out. Together we can fight to fulfill the promise this country made of liberty and justice for all. I just want to say, as a staffer, that I will pass along all your messages to the Congressman, and I encourage you to keep calling. We monitor and track all of the phone calls, and he always, when he's in town, he asks, what have people been calling about, and we tell him. So please keep calling.
Great. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.